Welcome back to another ride with Lane's Explorer, and this is just a couple of minutes from home. So as you can see, although we're riding through a few houses here, we're almost into the countryside. There we are, perfect. There's a little bonus of living where I do. Not far to go and you're off into the country. And this is for James, also known as Ainsworth Rider, and he says, I don't mind familiar roads, Peter. So here we are, this is Christmas Eve, and a little ride out to the countryside for you. And I have brightened this up a little bit. I've put a little bit of a filter on this, so it makes it look brighter than it really was. And one of the benefits of having a dull day, I suppose, is that the sun's not in my eyes. I do suffer with bright sun, it seems. I'm sure I never used to, but perhaps the sun's different to how it used to be. So we're going to have a little story on this, and the little story is about how come I don't ride in groups anymore. And it all began in the 1960s, mid-60s, when I used to have a few motorcycling chums back then. That was Malcolm, Arthur and John in the main, and they worked in Portsmouth Dockyard. I used to live in Portsmouth then, and used to ride up to Brands Hatch quite regularly to watch motorcycle racing. And not only was it the more sort of professional riding, but we also used to go up for the club meetings too, and that would be AJS 7Rs, Manx Nortons and Matchless G50s in the main, and the occasional Gold Star. Now Malcolm, at that point, I think he must have had a Ducati 200, I'm fairly sure he did. And he was a bit of a late starter. He'd only just passed his test. I've been riding a while, a couple of years by then, and I had a Royal Enfield Crusader Sports, and that Crusader Sports was a nippy little bike and standard, and by the time I'd finished with it, it was a little bit faster still. And a little story about that one is that I decided to tune it. I had a book called Tuning for Speed, which some of you will remember, and excellent book when you're an 18-year-old. It's what do? You fill a bit with the engine. Anyway, I decided to borrow a 1.25 inch diameter reamer from work. I was an apprentice, and open up that inlet tract, and I started to open it up, and I thought, well, that's nice. And then I started to polish it a little bit, and as I was polishing, a little black spot appeared. I thought, that's strange, what is that little black spot there? Then that must be an inclusion in the casting. And polishing away, the spot got bigger. I realised it wasn't a spot at all, it was a hole I'd broken through the casting. Oh no. So yeah, not to be recommended. Anyway, I managed to sort that out with a little bit of Araldite. So anyway, back to the story, Peter. Riding in groups. They decided, Malcolm and Arthur, I think I must have had Arthur as a pillion at that point. He was always between bikes, Arthur. I first knew him when he had a Norman Villiers twin-engined 250, which he had some expansion boxes on, and they were incredibly noisy. He stuffed Brillo pads up them to make it a bit quieter, but he'd always been pulled over by the police. That was when you used to see police around. In fact, this story is about that as well. So carrying on, yes, that's when I first met him. And then he got a Gold Star 350, a CB32 it was, with the one with oval flywheels, for those who know about such things. And unfortunately I do. So yes, he wasn't he was putting it back together again after stripping it down and painting the frame ruby red, I recall. It did look very nice when he'd finished it, but he didn't have it for very long because then he went to Australia and didn't take it with him. He sold it. Anyway, we all decided. I didn't decide. It was nothing to do with me. Malcolm said, "Oh, we're meeting up. Group of us. We're meeting up north of Portsmouth at a pub, a place called Hillsey. It is. That's northern Portsmouth, Portsea Island, just off the. Is it just off? Not quite sure if that's just off the island or not. Anyway, it's immaterial, isn't it? So, yes, we're meeting up there at 7:30 in the morning because we always like to get off early. I did. And so did Malcolm. We like to get off early in the morning so you get to Brands Hatch in time for practice. Make a full day of it. That was the idea. So Malcolm and I are there with Arthur. John Ring, he's now actually built some racing engines up for Sammy Miller's museum, I discover. I've seen him on YouTube chatting about it. And gosh, he's come a long way since he used to pull BSA Bantams apart in his mum and dad's back garden when I first, because we were at school together, I first came across him one afternoon, and he'd set to with a hammer and cold chisel on this BSA Bantam, splitting the crankcase. I was like, "John, what on earth are you doing? That's not the way to split an engine apart." "Oh, it doesn't matter, I've got loads of these, I just want to do it quickly." I thought, "Oh, for God's sake." Anyway, get back to the story again, where we meet up at, we're there nice and early, and then a few others start to turn up, and time's getting on, and I'm getting a bit fractious as I didn't have much patience in those days. And we'll check if this bloke overtake me in a minute. Here he goes. There we go. Him well out of the way. Now, I've got more patience today. In the past, I'd have whizzed up and overtaken him again, wouldn't I? That's what teenagers do. I'm not sure I used to, but I think I probably would have done. He'd never have overtaken me in the past. Still, that's by the by. People start to turn up, and Dave turns up, and he's, I think he probably was a little bit older. He probably was a couple of years older than the rest of us, I think. I didn't know him at all well. Only seen him a couple of times before. And he had greasy, brill-creamed, longish black hair. And his sisters were the same. They had very black hair, and I discovered afterwards they used to dye it black, even blacker than it really was. So he turns up on this matchless thing, twin, 650 twin, and then Tony Fitzmaurice comes, and he's got a road-going AJS 7R350 racing bike, and had no road-going bits on it at all, apart from the number plates, and presumably it was taxed. I don't really know. Knowing Tony, it probably wasn't. Probably false plates. Anyway, he turns up, and he has an open megaphone, reverse cone megaphone, so it makes a hell of a noise. No kickstart, of course, so he has to bump start it all the time. And Dave goes up. Oh, Dave, Tony says, "Could you set my tappets for me before we set off?" I thought, "What? Set your tappets? We're just about to go for a ride. This isn't the time to be doing this sort of thing." Oh, well, anyway, long-suffering Tony, who liked to work on these things, he off comes a tank, off comes the rocker boxes, and so he starts to adjust his tappets for him. And meanwhile, Dave starts combing his greasy hair. Oh, what an idiot. Anyway, so I didn't warm to him at all. I used to like Tony. He was good fun, and he could, yeah, he wasn't. He didn't just talk about bikes. He had a wider range of conversation about him. That was nice. So whilst he was doing that, others started to turn up. I didn't expect this many. About 15 in the end. And one of them was a friend of Arthur's. He obviously invited him, or he decided to come. And this friend of Arthur's had an A10 BSA 650, and it had a sidecar on it, and it wasn't a sports sidecar at all. It was a single seat plywood job, and in it was his girlfriend. And so anyway, off we go. Finally we go. We set off, and we don't get many miles. It must have been probably no more than 10 miles, I think, up the A3 towards Horndean. And the group has slowed. I'm towards the back, and the group has slowed a bit and come to a halt. And it was the motorcycle and sidecar had stopped, and it was smoking. So he'd removed the oil tank filler cap, and there was smoke coming out of it. And there was no oil in the thing. He hadn't checked the oil. It seized up. He'd only just got the thing. He hadn't even checked anything about it, and it was completely seized up. Oh, anyway, fortunately, it was by a phone box. So he went into the phone box, and he must have phoned for help, and so we left him. So we're very, wasn't very friendly, was it? Still looking back on it, what could we have done? Pushed it home for him? I don't think so. So yes, the rest of us set off again, and we're heading off now towards Guildford. The route this was before the ring road around London. I can't even remember. I couldn't even tell you what that ring road's called. Thatcher put it in, didn't she, in the 80s, I think. Those of you that live in the south of England, you'll know the name of it. I don't live down that way now, thankfully. Definitely a northern boy now. And yeah, the route used to go up to Guildford and used to turn right at Guildford towards Dorking and Godalming. I think we got up as far as Godalming, turn right at Godalming, and then off towards a bigger hammer. I remember overhanging building at a bigger hammer. So yeah, we're heading off up now towards I think we're over and about the Devil's Punch Bowl area, which is a lovely overlooking the Devil's Punch Bowl road, and it's the A3, and it's that bend is quite tricky. It can catch you out if you're not prepared for it. It tightens up enormously as you go into it, and it should catch you unwary out. And the police come and overtake us and stop us all, and a whole 15 of us in a great long line, and they stop us, and Tony with his AJS 7R is towards the back, and he's got his foot over his megaphone to keep it, because he has to keep it running. He can't bump starting it again. He kept it running with his foot over the thing to keep it quite a bit quiet. Anyway, the police come wandering down to tell us not to go racing, not to race in the group, and just a little bit of a talking to. You don't see the police anymore, not round this way anyway. Rare as hen's teeth. So this is great, isn't it? Yeah, really enjoying this ride now. So yes, that holds us up at least 20 minutes while they give each one of us a little chat and make sure the bikes are safe. So off we go again, and I thought, I don't know about this group. This is the first time I'd actually done that. I'd only ever ridden with Malcolm, just two of us together in the past, and I wasn't at all sure about this. In fact, that was the end of it. I thought, no, I can't be doing with this. They all went off ahead, and I just kept to myself, and eventually got to Brands Hatch, as you do. It's about 90 miles from home, and an excellent day's racing. We did get there just at the tail end of practice, so it made a longer day for us. Arthur and myself and Malcolm, we just stayed together, the two of us, riding, and Arthur on the back of mine. And the Royal Enfield was a nice little bike, except it did vibrate. Arthur complained that it made his feet go numb on the pillion footrests, and it was okay on my forward all standard footrests, I did eventually fit rear sets onto it, and yes, it did make your feet go numb. It was horrible. No, it was only after about 10 to 15 minutes riding. So I must say the new Royal Enfield single 350 engine, the J series as it's called, that doesn't give any vibration whatsoever that I'm aware of anyway. Much nicer. So that's a little story anyway. So we're now coming into Overkellet. And now just coming up to the crossroads, which you'll be familiar with. We're going to go straight across here, and we're going to go over that little repaired canal bridge in a moment. So I hope you like that little story. You won't get too many of them, don't worry. That filter makes these buildings look quite attractive, doesn't it, even on a dull day. Here we are, we're going off to the left here. Tricky little bit of bend, it's always mucky on that corner too, look at that. Filthy. In fact, the whole of this ride was pretty filthy. We've had some awful weather. We had a long period of freezing, and we also then, because pipes froze in the ground, we were without water for getting on for 40 hours actually. But still, well, water's back on. That makes you appreciate just how much we rely on things like water and power and telephones. And the countryside just looks wonderful, I think, even in winter. We're slowing down a bit, let that bloke go past. Always right on my tail, as they do. They're always in a hurry, these car drivers. Can't understand it. We all know where we're going. Let's not rush to it. Just my opinion, of course. Right, we're coming up to the end of the ride. We'll leave you just after the repaired canal bridge. A chance to see that again. I must say this little cut-off is lovely without that this little road. And the lights are working now, which is nice. Yeah, without that little canal bridge and this little cut-off, it's a long way round otherwise. So, thanks ever so much for watching this one. And I shall see you in the new year, no doubt. Thank you very much for watching my stuff all through the year. Much obliged. Hope you've enjoyed them. Bye for now.